At my own son's funeral, his wife kicked me out of my house. I'm Marcus Johnson. What happened next? Man, it changed everything. Picture this. Your boy just died. Heart attack at 34. You're sitting there, broken into pieces, tears running down your face. And your daughter-in-law, this woman your son married, she looks you dead in the eye and says, "Stop that crying. Pack your stuff and get out. This is my house now." Called me a dead weight right there, in front of the whole church crowd, at my son Darius's funeral. But here's what Savannah didn't know. That house she was putting me out of, I built it with my own 2 hands back in 1989. Every brick, every board. The money she thought she inherited, its $75,000 life insurance policy, always been mine. For 6 years, she lived off what I gave them while treating me like I was on government assistance. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, just turned around and walked away. Sometimes silence hits harder than words ever could. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I share stories about standing up to disrespect, about setting boundaries when people cross the line. And trust me, you'll want to stay till the end. Because what Savannah found out 4 days later taught both of us that assumptions can cost you everything you think you own. Let me take it back to the beginning. The signs were there from day one. I just didn't want to see them. When my son Darius died from that heart attack 8 weeks ago, Savannah took over everything. Just took control. "Don't worry about nothing, Big Mark," she told me. "I got this handled." What she really meant was, "Stay in your lane, old man." At the funeral home, she made every decision. The casket expensive mahogany, way more than necessary. The flowers, white roses everywhere. Even the music. When I suggested we play Darius's favorite song, the one by Luther Vandross, we used to listen to while working on the house back in '89, she shut me down quick. "That's too old-fashioned," Savannah said. "We need something contemporary. Something uplifting." I watched her run that funeral home like she was directing a movie. Designer black dress, probably cost $400. Giving orders left and right. And me? Sitting there in my good Navy suit, same one I wore when my wife Loretta passed 3 years back, I felt invisible. Like I didn't matter in my own family story. The real warning came at the repast. We held it at the house. Well, technically my house, though Savannah had been acting like it belonged to her since Darius passed. She cornered me in the kitchen. "Big Mark, we need to talk about your situation." "My situation?" "You've been depending on Darius financially. Now that he's gone." She shrugged. "I can't carry that burden." That word, burden, it cut deep. "I've been real generous letting you stay here," she continued. "But this house? It's mine now. Everything's mine. Darius left it all to me." I nodded slow. She thought that nod meant I was defeated. What she didn't see was me calculating. She had no clue that Darius never owned this house. He grew up here, yeah. Lived here his whole life. But own it? Never. She also didn't know about the file cabinet down in the basement. 4 drawers full of 35 years of documents. Every receipt, every contract, every proof of payment. The postal supervisor and me never threw away a single paper. And most importantly, she didn't know about the investment portfolio. But we'll get to that. The funeral guests saw what Savannah wanted them to see. A successful luxury car saleswoman taking charge during a family crisis. And an old man who couldn't handle his own business. They watched her shake hands and accept sympathy like she was the new head of the family. Meanwhile, I sat in Darius's favorite chair, the leather recliner I bought him for his 18th birthday, and listened to her rewrite history. Big Mark's having a hard time adjusting. I heard her tell Sister Jenkins from church. The poor man doesn't understand finances. Darius handled everything for him. Sister Jenkins gave me that look. The pity look. She'd known me for 32 years, since the day I broke ground on this lot. But even she seemed to believe Savannah's story. That's when it hit me. People see what they expect to see. Savannah expected to see a confused widower who couldn't make it on his own. And that's exactly what she saw. My 20-year-old Buick instead of a new car. My Walmart clothes instead of designer brands. My quiet grieving instead of making a big show. She mistook my humility for helplessness. My silence for weakness. My generosity for desperation. It was an understandable mistake. For 3 years since Loretta died, I'd been living simple. Didn't need luxury when I was learning to live alone. Darius understood that. He respected my choice to cut back on spending. But Savannah? She measured worth by appearance, by volume, by who talked the loudest. She was about to learn that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who doesn't need to prove nothing to nobody. When the last guest left that Tuesday night, Savannah came at me again, by the front door. I'm serious. Big Mark, this arrangement ain't working no more. I looked around the living room. The walls I'd painted 4 times over the decades. The hardwood floors I'd laid with my own hands. The crown molding I put up with Darius when he was 13. I understand, I said quietly, but Savannah had no idea what I understood. No idea at all. What was about to go down. Wednesday morning came with clarity and coffee. I sat at my kitchen table, the one Loretta, and I bought at an estate sale in 1988, and made a list. Not a list of what I was losing. A list of what Savannah thought she was gaining. The house. 2,340 square feet on Sycamore Street in a solid Detroit neighborhood. According to Savannah's luxury car sales expertise, worth about $650,000. The life insurance. Darius's policy through his IT company. $75,000. Savannah was already spending that money in her head. The furniture. Everything from Loretta's china cabinet to Darius's collection of tech books. Priceless to me. Worthless to her. My dignity. Watching her strut around like she'd inherited a kingdom, when really she hadn't inherited a damn thing. But what hurt most wasn't the money, or even the house. It was how she was erasing everything. Erasing the life Loretta and I built here. She'd already packed away Loretta's photos from the mantel. Darius's childhood drawings were gone from the fridge. Even my Postal Service awards weren't hanging in the den anymore. I'm updating the decor, she said when I asked. Darius always said this place needed modernizing. Modernizing? Like 40 years of memories or some outdated software that needed deleting. She gave me 30 days. 30 days to find another place with what she assumed was just my pension check. 30 days to pack up 4 decades, like they never happened. The cruelest part? The confidence she had. She really believed she held all the cards. That Wednesday afternoon, she handed me a printed timeline like I was a tenant getting evicted. December 10th, she said, pointing to a date circled in red. That gives you time to find a nice senior apartment. Something more appropriate for your situation. That phrase again. Your situation. I even looked at some places for you, she added, pulling out brochures like she was doing me a favor. Riverside Senior Living has openings. Only $1,600 a month for a studio. $1,600 a month. She expected me to spend most of my pension on rent and somehow survive. What about food? I asked. Transportation? Medicine? She shrugged. There's programs for people in your situation. Food stamps, Medicaid. The government takes care of seniors. The government? Like I was some charity case who never contributed nothing to society. That's when I understood. Savannah didn't just want me gone. She wanted me grateful for the opportunity to leave. She wanted me to thank her for giving me 30 days instead of 0. For being so generous that she wasn't calling the police to drag me out. But Wednesday morning, sitting with my coffee and my list, I had a revelation. Savannah had made one critical assumption, that Darius owned everything she was claiming. They'd been married 6 years. She'd lived in this house 6 years. She probably never saw a deed, a mortgage statement, or any document proving ownership of nothing. Why would she? Darius handled the finances. That's how Loretta and I raised him. The man takes care of the money. Old school, maybe, but it always worked for us. Except for one detail. Darius never managed my finances. He helped around the house, sure. Bought groceries when I needed them. Drove me to doctor appointments after Loretta died. But the money? The investments? The property? That was always me. Savannah saw Darius helping me and assumed dependence. She saw my gratitude and assumed obligation. She saw 3 years of quiet mourning and assumed defeat. If I said nothing, if I just packed my bags and moved to Riverside Senior Living like a docile old man, what message would that send? That bullies win. That loud beats truth. That if you yell confident enough, you can rewrite history and steal somebody's life. That respect for elders is optional. That my 40 years of marriage to Loretta meant nothing. That the house we built together was just bricks and wood. That the son we raised could be forgotten as easy as taking photos off a mantle. What was at stake wasn't just financial. It was existential. But I had something Savannah didn't know about. Something that would change everything. I just needed to find the right moment to use it. And that moment would come sooner than she thought. Thursday morning, Savannah let herself into my house with Darius's key. I was eating breakfast when I heard the front door open. No knock. No, good morning. Just walked in like she owned the place. Because in her mind, she did. Big Mark, we need to talk, she announced, marching into the kitchen with a folder under her arm. About what? Your finances. She sat down across from me without being invited. I've been thinking about your situation, and I need to know exactly what Darius was covering for you. I sipped my coffee. Go on, utilities. Property taxes, insurance. She pulled out a notepad. Darius never told me the exact amounts, but I need to know so I can budget. Budget for what? To cover those expenses. Obviously. She looked at me like I was slow. Until you move out, I'll have to pay everything Darius was paying for you. I set my cup down. And what exactly you think Darius was paying? Everything. The mortgage. The taxes. The electric bill. You live on a fixed income, Big Mark. Your pension doesn't cover all this. Is that what Darius told you? Her pen stopped moving. What you mean? I mean, did Darius explicitly tell you he was paying my bills? He didn't have to say it. It was obvious. She gestured around the kitchen. How else could you afford to live here? This house is worth over $600,000. And how you know what it's worth? I sell luxury cars, Big Mark. I know value when I see it. And I know this neighborhood, but you never seen the deed. The question hung in the air. Savannah's confident expression flickered. I don't need to see the deed. Darius inherited this house when Loretta died. Now I inherit it from him. That's how inheritance works. I stood up slow and walked to the sink, rinsing my cup with deliberate calm. You know, Savannah, you've made a whole lot of assumptions about my finances. They ain't assumptions. They facts. Is that right? Yes. Darius told me you never contributed a dime to this house. I turned around. Darius told you that? Yes, interesting. Because I built this house in 1989, paid for the land in cash, hired the contractors, supervised every day of construction. Her face went hard. That was 35 years ago. Things change. Some things do. Ownership doesn't. Look, Big Mark, I know this is hard for you. You lost Darius, and now you got to face reality. But denial don't help nobody. Denial of what? Of pretending you ain't dependent on family charity. The word charity landed like a slap. I dried my hands on the towel, taking my time. Savannah, let me ask you something. In 6 years of marriage, did you ever see a single mortgage statement with Darius's name on it? We kept our finances separate. Did he ever talk about making house payments? We didn't discuss every detail of his spending. Did you see him pay the property taxes? Her silence was answer enough. I'll tell you what I think happened, I said, leaning against the counter. Darius helped me with small stuff, groceries, yard work. And you assumed he was supporting me financially, because that's what it looked like. But appearances can be deceiving. Fine, show me the deed then. Prove this house is yours. I don't got to prove nothing to you. Yes, you do. Because I'm Darius's widow, and I inherited everything. You keep saying that, because it's true. We stared at each other across my kitchen. Savannah's jaw was tight. Her confident luxury car saleswoman pose was starting to crack. You got till December 10th, she finally said. After that, I'm changing the locks. We'll see about that. She gathered her papers and headed for the door. We'll see what? But I just smiled and started loading the dishwasher. Some conversations are best finished with a lawyer present. Friday afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went down to the basement dock. It had always been my sanctuary. Loretta used to joke that I was like a squirrel, hoarding every receipt like they were nuts for winter. You never know when you'll need to prove something. I'd tell her. She'd roll her eyes and say normal people don't keep 35 years of bank statements. But I wasn't normal people. I was a postal supervisor. And I learned early that papers tell stories. Those stories protect you when memory fails. Or when somebody lies. The filing cabinet was right where I left it. 4 drawers, perfectly organized by decade. I opened the drawer marked 1980s. Inside, I found the folder I needed. Real estate minus 2,847 Sycamore Street. The first document was the land purchase. April 3rd, 1989. Buyer, Marcus A. Johnson. $52,000 for the lot. The second was the construction contract. $124,000 for a custom brick colonial. The third was the most important, the original deed dated April 28, 1989. Owner, Marcus A. Johnson. Sole title. No co-ownership. No mortgage. Paid in full. Savannah had no idea. Of course not. In 1989, she would have been 6 years old, learning her ABCs while I was learning to read blueprints. But there was more in that folder. Insurance policies. Tax receipts. Utility hookup contracts. All in my name. All paid by me. 35 years of continuous ownership. Darius's name appeared nowhere. Opened the drawer for the 90s. More of the same. Taxes paid every year by Marcus A. Johnson. The 2000s? Same. The 2010s? Same. The last few years? Same. But the real surprise was at the bottom of the last drawer. A folder labeled Investment Portfolio Private. Savannah couldn't even imagine that folder existed. Inside were documents that would change everything. The first was a statement from my investment account. Current balance as of November 2024, $847,293. $847,000. The second was Darius's life insurance policy. $75,000, just like Savannah mentioned. But the beneficiary wasn't Savannah. It was Marcus A. Johnson. Me.Savannah had been making plans for 8 weeks with money that was never hers. building her future on ground that didn't exist. I closed the filing cabinet and went back upstairs. Made myself a sandwich. Thought about timing. Savannah had given me till December 10th to leave. Today was November 7th. I had exactly 33 days to decide how to handle this. I could call her right now. Explain the truth. Show her the documents. Watch her world collapse. Or I could wait. Let her keep assuming. Let her keep digging her hole deeper. Let her learn the lesson the hard way. While I ate, I remembered something my old supervisor at the post office used to say. Mark, sometimes the best strategy is letting folks talk till they corner themselves. Savannah was certainly cornering herself. The question was, how deep did I want to let her dig before I stopped her? I looked around the kitchen I designed 35 years ago. The cabinets I chose. The countertops I installed. The window over the sink that Loretta loved because she could watch the birds dot my house. My investments. My decision. Savannah was about to learn that respect ain't negotiable. But first, she needed to finish digging. Sunday morning. Savannah showed her true colors. I was getting ready for church when she arrived with 3 of her colleagues from Elite Motors. She'd invited them for what she called a consultation on the property's potential. I heard them before I saw them. Savannah's voice carrying through the front door. This house has incredible bones, but the decor is so dated. Typical old man style, you know. They toured my house like it was already hers. Girl, this brick is gorgeous, said a woman with designer heels. Is this original? From 1989, Savannah replied. Big Mark built it, but he don't have no eye for modern design. Look at that wallpaper. Those cabinets. It's like a time capsule. I came down the stairs in my Sunday suit. 3 women I didn't know were in my living room taking pictures. Big Mark, Savannah said with fake cheerfulness. Perfect timing. I want you to meet some colleagues. She introduced me like I was a museum exhibit. This is Big Mark, Darius's father. He's the original owner, but he's transitioning to a more suitable living situation. Transitioning? Like I was changing jobs? Mr. Johnson, the woman in heels said, your house has so much character. You must have put in serious work. Some, I replied. Savannah told us you'll be moving to Riverside Senior Living soon. That's a nice facility. I looked at Savannah. Is that what I'm doing? We already discussed this, Big Mark. December 10th, remember? I remember you talked. I listened. The silence got awkward. The women exchanged glances. Well, the heels woman said, maybe we should let you get to church. Actually, Savannah cut in, since y'all here, maybe Big Mark can tell you about the maintenance issues. The roof leak. The furnace problems. There was no leak. The furnace was 2 years old. I'm not aware of any serious maintenance problems, I said slowly. Big Mark, you know the upstairs bathroom faucet drips. The basement gets damp every spring. The faucet needs a 50-cent washer. The basement's been dry for 20 years. Savannah's smile tightened. Big Mark's very attached to this place. Sometimes he don't see problems that are obvious to others. Problems like what? I asked. Like the fact you can't afford to maintain a house this size no more. The room went silent. Even the saleswomen looked uncomfortable. I can't afford it? Big Mark, we been over this. Your pension barely covers basics. And how you know that? Because I got eyes. You drive a 20-year-old Buick. You use coupons at the grocery store. You ain't updated nothing major in this house since the late 90s. One of the women cleared her throat. Maybe we should reschedule. No, it's fine, Savannah insisted. Big Mark understands his situation. He's had 3 years to accept reality since Loretta died. What reality? I asked. That you, a 67-year-old man on a fixed income, who can't take care of a 2,300 square foot house no more. 67 and capable. It don't matter. The point, I interrupted, is that you're making assumptions about my finances. They ain't assumptions, Big Mark. They observations. Observations about what? About the fact you've been living off Darius's generosity for 3 years. Now that he's gone, you got to face reality. The words hung in the air like poison dot. The saleswomen looked for an exit. Darius's generosity, I repeated. Yes, he paid your bills, your utilities, your food, your medicine. You gonna deny it? And you know this how? Savannah's face flushed. Because he was my husband. I saw him making payments. What payments? For your expenses. You saw him pay the taxes on this house? He did it online. You saw him pay my electric bills? He transferred money to your account. You ever see a bank statement showing those transfers? We kept our accounts separate. In other words, she'd never seen nothing. The woman in heels stepped forward. You know what, Savannah? This seems like family business. Maybe we should know. Savannah snapped. This needs to be said. Big Mark, you can't keep living in denial. What denial? The denial of thinking you anything but a burden. The word bounced off the walls. Even Savannah seemed shocked to hear it out loud. A burden? I said softly. I'm sorry, but yes. You've been one ever since Loretta died. Darius was too kind to tell you. But somebody had to. Supporting you was leaving him broke. Broke? Yes. The taxes on this house alone are $8,500 a year. Add utilities, maintenance, your medical bills. Now she was on a roll. Darius spent at least $25,000 last year supporting you. And now he's gone? I'm supposed to carry it all? I got my own life to think about. The saleswomen pressed against the door. So you kicking me out? I asked. I'm giving you 30 days to find appropriate housing. That's more generous than most would be. Generous? Yes, generous. Because honestly, Big Mark, you never contributed nothing to Darius's success. He made it on his own. Earned his own money. Bought his own house. This house? Yes, this one. Darius inherited it from Loretta, and now I inherit it from him. That's how inheritance works. I nodded slow. I see. Good. Finally you understand. Savannah, I said. What? Maybe you should check your facts before saying things like that in front of witnesses. She laughed nervously. What facts, Big Mark? I know how property works. Better than you, apparently. I looked at the 3 women by the door. They were witnessing something they didn't sign up for. Ladies, I said, perhaps you should ask Savannah to show you the deed to this house before planning renovations. Savannah's face went white. Big Mark, don't what? Tell the truth? But I'd said enough. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people hang themselves with their own words. Enjoy the rest of the tour, I said, and walked toward the door. I had to call my lawyer. Monday morning. I sat in Attorney Patricia Freeman's office with 3 folders on the table. Mrs. Freeman had been handling my legal affairs for 15 years. She knew exactly what was in each folder. Marcus, she said, adjusting her glasses. I need to ask you something. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? Positive. Because once we start, there's no going back. Savannah will know everything. Good. She opened the first folder. The original deed to 2847 Sycamore Street sat right on top. Sole owner, Marcus A. Johnson. Registration date, April 28, 1989. No co-ownership. No mortgage. Paid in full. You paid for the land and construction in cash, she confirmed. Correct. She opened the second folder. Property tax receipts for 35 years. All paid from my accounts. Correct. Insurance policies, she continued. All in your name. Utility receipts, maintenance contracts, also your name. Correct. She opened the third folder. And here's the big one. Your investment portfolio. The documents were thick. Financial statements going back decades. Current balance? She asked, though she already knew. $847,293 as of last week. And Darius's life insurance? $75,000. Beneficiary is me. Mrs. Freeman leaned back in her chair. Marcus, this is substantial. Savannah had no idea? None. And Darius never explained your financial situation to her? Darius was a good son, but he wasn't detailed with money. He knew I helped him when he needed it. Probably never told her where the help came from. So Savannah assumed Darius was supporting you, when really you were supporting him. Exactly. Mrs. Freeman shook her head. It's almost understandable. Young couples don't usually have this kind of backing. The irony, I said, is that Savannah's kicking me out of my own house using money that was always mine. How so? Darius's life insurance. $75,000. She's been planning her life around that money for 8 weeks. But the beneficiary is me. Mrs. Freeman did quick math. So let me understand. Savannah thinks she inherited a $650,000 house, plus $75,000 insurance. That's $725,000. Right. But in reality, she inherited nothing. The house is yours. The insurance goes to you. Exactly. And meanwhile, she's treated you like a burden while planning to spend $725,000 that never belonged to her. That's right. Silence. Marcus, I have to ask, why did you let this go on for 8 weeks? Why didn't you correct her from the start? I thought about Sunday. Savannah calling me a burden in front of strangers. Her casual cruelty, because I wanted to see how far she'd go. And she went pretty far. Very far. What do you want to do now? I want to make the boundaries clear, legal, emotional, all of them. She picked up a notepad. Go ahead. First, I want the insurance claim processed immediately. That money belongs to me, not Savannah. Simple enough. Second, I want Savannah formally notified that she's a tenant in my house, not the owner. Also simple. How much notice? 30 days. Same deadline she gave me. Mrs. Freeman smiled slightly. Poetic justice. Third, I want her to understand Darius's exact relationship to my finances, so she can't claim ignorance. We'll send her copies of everything. And fourth, I paused. I want witnesses present when we tell her. Witnesses? The same saleswomen who heard her call me a burden on Sunday. They deserve to know the truth, too. Marcus, that borders on public humiliation. No, public humiliation was what Savannah did to me. This is public education. It's different. The saleswomen aren't necessary for the legal process, but they are for the social one. Savannah spent 8 weeks telling everyone I'm a broke old man living on charity. Those people deserve to hear the truth. And Savannah deserves to hear it in front of the same people she lied to. Mrs. Freeman made notes. When do you want to do this? Tomorrow? Tomorrow? Let's give her 24 hours to enjoy her assumptions. If she refuses to come, we send the documents without explanation and let her process them however she can. She checked her calendar. I can have everything ready for 10 a.m. tomorrow. Perfect. Where do you want to meet? Elite Motors Showroom, where her colleagues can see what real respect looks like. Marcus, she said, looking at me over her glasses. I've been practicing family law for 30 years. I've seen many inheritance disputes. This isn't about money, is it? No, it's about respect. And boundaries. Savannah needs to learn she can't treat people badly just because she thinks they got no power. And if she had been respectful from the start, then we'd be having a different conversation. I would have explained everything privately, helped her transition to independence. But she wasn't. She was cruel. There's a difference between pain and cruelty. Mrs. Freeman closed the folders. I'll make the calls this afternoon. Thank you, Marcus. For what it's worth, I think Darius would be proud of how you're handling this. I stood and shook her hand. Darius taught me something important. What's that? That quiet strength always beats loud ignorance. He was a good young man. He had the best teacher. His mother, Loretta. No, Mrs. Freeman said. Life. Life taught him that respect is earned, not inherited. As I left the office, I thought about the date Savannah had circled in red. December 10th. She'd given me till then to leave. Tomorrow would be November 11th. She was about to discover that some deadlines work both ways, and that some assumptions cost more than you can afford to pay. The quiet man was about to raise his voice. And when quiet people finally speak, smart people listen. Tuesday at 10 a.m., Mrs. Freeman and I walked into Elite Motors on Woodward Avenue. Savannah was at her desk showing a Mercedes to a young couple. When she saw us, her face went from professional smile to confusion to something like panic. Big Mark, what you doing here? We need to talk, I said calmly. In private. The couple looked back and forth, sensing tension. I'm with clients, Savannah replied, trying to maintain her saleswoman persona. Can it wait? No, Mrs. Freeman said, stepping forward. I'm attorney Patricia Freeman. We have urgent legal matters regarding your husband's estate. The words attorney and legal matters had immediate effect. The couple backed away. Maybe we should reschedule, the young man said. No, it's fine, Savannah rushed. Big Mark, you can wait in the conference room. I'll be right there. Actually, Mrs. Freeman interjected, I think your colleagues should hear this too. The ladies from Sunday? I believe they're planning renovations based on assumptions that need correcting. The entire showroom went quiet. Other salespeople pretended to work, but listened to every word. Big Mark, what is this about? Savannah's voice had an edge. It's about the house, I replied simply. We already talked about the house. No, you talked. I listened. The young couple was already heading out. We'll call to reschedule, the woman said. Wait, Savannah tried, but they were gone. The woman from Sunday Jessica cautiously approached. Savannah, everything okay? Everything's fine, she said through clenched teeth. Big Mark's just having trouble accepting his new situation. Actually, Mrs. Freeman said, opening her briefcase, Marcus is having trouble accepting your old situation. What does that mean? It means we need to clarify some confusion about property ownership. There ain't no confusion. I inherited the house from Darius. Which house exactly? Mrs. Freeman asked. The one on Sycamore Street? And you have documentation of that inheritance? Darius's will. He left me his personal property. His car, his clothes, his house. Darius didn't own a house. The words dropped like stones. The showroom fell silent. What you mean he didn't own a house? Mrs. Freeman pulled out the first folder. The residence at 2847 Sycamore Street belongs to Marcus A. Johnson. Purchase recorded April 28, 1989. Sole owner. No co-ownership. No mortgage. That's impossible. Here's the deed. Savannah snatched the paper and read it. Her face went from pale to white. This got to be wrong. Darius inherited the house when Loretta died. Loretta had no property in her name, Mrs. Freeman explained. Everything was purchased by Marcus before the marriage. Darius lived there as Marcus's son, in his father's house. Jessica and the other salespeople moved closer, unable to resist. I don't understand, Savannah repeated. Darius paid the bills. The taxes. Everything. No, I said. Darius helped me with practical things. I paid all the bills. That ain't true. Mrs. Freeman opened the second folder. Property tax records for 35 years. All paid by Marcus A. Johnson. Insurance policies all in his name. Utility receipts, maintenance contracts, all linked to his accounts. Savannah stared at the papers like they were written in another language. It don't make sense, she whispered. Darius had money. He earned good. He was in IT. Darius lived well because Marcus ensured he lived well, Mrs. Freeman clarified. What does that mean? Mrs. Freeman opened the third folder. It means this. Marcus's investment portfolio. Current balance, $847,293. Darius received help from his father throughout his life. Marcus financed his education, his wedding, and other things through these investments. You saying Big Mark was supporting Darius? I'm saying Marcus supported his son with his own resources. Savannah slumped into her office chair. But Darius told me he helped you financially. Darius helped me practically. I helped him economically. The insurance, Savannah blurted suddenly. Darius's insurance. That's mine. Mrs. Freeman pulled out another document. The beneficiary of Darius's life insurance is Marcus A. Johnson. That money belongs to Marcus. Savannah looked around. All the salespeople were watching. The woman who on Sunday was so sure of her inheritance, so ready to call me a burden, was now exposed. Big Mark, she said, her voice broken. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You could have told me all this. You could have asked respectfully. Mrs. Freeman closed the folders. Savannah, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. 30 days? Her voice cracked. Where I'm supposed to go? That's no longer Marcus's responsibility. You're a capable adult with a job. I'm sure you'll find a solution. Savannah looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Respect. Big Mark, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I made assumptions. I was cruel. Yes. Can we work out some kind of arrangement? Some middle ground? I thought for a moment. The showroom stayed silent. Savannah, respect ain't negotiable. I understand now. I wish you'd understood sooner. Mrs. Freeman and I headed for the exit. Big Mark, Savannah called. Wait, what happens now? I turned around. Now you're gonna learn something I always knew. What's that? That quiet people ain't weak. They just selective about when they use their voice. By Thursday morning, the whole story had spread through Detroit's luxury car world like wildfire. I knew because my neighbor, Sister Jenkins, the one who'd been next door for 32 years, came over with sweet tea and the latest news. Marcus, you should have seen Savannah at Kroger yesterday, she said, settling into Loretta's chair. That girl looked like she'd seen a ghost. Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. And she was shopping in the clearance section. Savannah, the one who never bought nothing that wasn't name brand. She sipped her tea, and she was alone. Usually she's surrounded by them car sales friends, like she's Beyoncé or something. Maybe. They were busy. Or maybe they keeping their distance now that the truth is out. Sister Jenkins shook her head. People talking, Marcus. And none of what they saying is in her favor. What they saying? That she showed poor judgment. That she made assumptions about finances without doing her homework. And in real estate and car sales, homework is everything. The phone rang. Mrs. Freeman. Marcus, we have an update. Savannah's lawyer called. He wants to discuss a settlement. What kind of settlement? Savannah wants to stay in the house for 6 months instead of 30 days. She's offering to pay rent. How much? $1,500 a month. I almost laughed. For a house worth $650,000? Market rent is closer to $2,800. Correct. I told him we'd consider a reasonable offer. And what's reasonable? $2,800 a month, plus first and last month up front, plus security deposit equal to 1 month. That's $8,400 up front. Can she afford it? That's no longer our concern. But from what her lawyer hinted, she's struggling financially. When I hung up, Sister Jenkins was watching me. Savannah wants to stay. She wants to pay less than market rate. I said if she stays, it's under the same conditions as anyone else. Sister Jenkins nodded. That's fair. Friday afternoon, another visitor showed up. Terrell Davis, Darius's friend from college. Big Mark, I came to apologize. He said as soon as I opened the door. For what? For believing Savannah's version. She told all of us that Darius was supporting you completely. I believed her. I'm sorry. I should have known better. Why'd you believe her? He shifted uncomfortably. Because it fit what I expected to see. An older man, widowed, his son helping out. It sounded logical. Assumptions, I murmured. Yeah, and I wasn't the only one. Many of Darius's friends thought the same. Now we all feel foolish. Makes us wonder what else Savannah twisted. It was clear Savannah's credibility was crumbling in different circles. Saturday morning, Mrs. Freeman called with the final update. Savannah's lawyer called back. She can't afford the rent we proposed. She's moving out. And Elite Motors? She's leaving. Or rather, they let her go. Let's call it mutual. The point is, same week she loses the house and the job. Mrs. Freeman, you think I should feel bad about any of this? I looked around my kitchen. The one Loretta and I designed with so much love. The one Savannah planned to gut and modernize. Mrs. Freeman, Savannah made choices. She chose cruelty over kindness. She chose assumptions over asking. She humiliated me publicly. Now she's dealing with consequences. Natural consequences, she pointed out. You didn't fire her. Her clients lost trust in her judgment. Exactly. Then it's not revenge, Marcus. No, it's accountability. Savannah's learning that actions have consequences. A lesson she should have learned years ago. Sunday, sitting in my pew at Greater Faith Baptist, I thought about forgiveness and boundaries. I discovered they're not opposites. They're partners. I could forgive Savannah for her assumptions and still maintain firm boundaries about respect. I could forgive her cruelty and still let her face natural consequences. Forgiveness wasn't pretending nothing happened. It was accepting what happened and moving forward with wisdom. Pastor Williams preached about reaping what you sow. The words hit different that morning. After service, people approached me. Deacon Miller, Sister Thompson, even young folks who knew Darius. We heard what happened, Brother Marcus, Deacon Miller said. We're sorry we didn't see the truth sooner. Ain't your fault, I replied. People see what they expect to see. Still, Sister Thompson added, we should have known better. You've been in this community 35 years. Built that house with your own hands. We should have questioned Savannah's story. It's water under the bridge now. But their words meant something. The community was recalibrating, remembering who I really was. Not the dependent old man Savannah painted, but Marcus Johnson, the postal supervisor who raised a good son, the husband who loved his wife 40 years, the man who built a legacy brick by brick. 3 weeks later, I was reading the Detroit Free Press in my living room when the doorbell rang. Savannah stood on the porch with a box in her arms. Hello. Big Mark. Savannah, I found some things that belong to you. She set the box on the coffee table. Photo albums from Darius's childhood. Handwritten recipes in Loretta's flowing script. I opened the door wider. Come in. She looked around the living room she'd wanted to completely transform. It looks the same. Why would it look different? I don't know. I guess I thought you'd change things after everything. Some things don't need changing. We sat in silence for a moment. Big Mark, I owe you more than an apology. You don't owe me nothing. Yes, I do. I treated you terribly. I judged your life, your finances, your worth. I was cruel when I should have been grateful. I understand something now that I should have seen from the start. What's that? That Darius learned his values from someone. His kindness, his generosity, that quiet strength. He learned all that from you. I nodded. Darius was a good son. He was. And you were a good father. I didn't see it because I was too busy making assumptions. We all do. The question is, what do we do when we find out we were wrong? I'm trying to learn from this, she murmured. I found a job in another city. Columbus, Ohio. A fresh start. Maybe I can do better there. I hope so. She stood and picked up her purse. Big Mark, can I ask you something? Go ahead. If I'd been respectful from the start, if I'd asked questions instead of making demands, would things have been different? I thought carefully. Probably would have helped you transition. Get back on your feet. We could have honored Darius's memory together, instead of fighting over it. Savannah nodded, her eyes glistening. I guess respect really ain't negotiable, is it? No, it ain't. Thank you for teaching me that. After she left, I opened the box. Inside were photos of baby Darius. Loretta's recipes in her beautiful handwriting. Small treasures that had temporarily ended up in the wrong hands. I thought about the last 3 months. The funeral. The confrontation. The legal resolution. The natural consequences. Savannah. Learned an expensive lesson about assumptions and respect. But I learned something too. I learned that quiet strength doesn't mean accepting disrespect. I learned that. Setting boundaries isn't building walls. It's drawing lines for healthy relationships. And most importantly, I understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is speak the truth and let others face the consequences of their own choices. Darius would have been proud of that lesson. Loretta would have approved of the quiet way I handled it. For the first time in a long time, I was at peace. That evening, I sat on my front porch with a glass of sweet tea. The same porch I built in 1989. The same view I'd watched for 35 years. Sister Jenkins came over with a plate of cornbread. Thought you might want some, she said, settling into the other chair. Appreciate it. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the neighborhood. Kids riding bikes. Couples walking dogs. The rhythm of life continuing. Marcus, she finally said, can I tell you something? Always. What you did standing up to Savannah like that, it reminded a lot of us about something we'd forgotten. What's that? That quiet don't mean weak. That just because somebody don't make noise, don't mean they ain't got power. I sipped my tea. My daddy used to say, son, a lion don't have to roar to be king. Wise man, your daddy? He was. Taught me that respect is earned through actions, not words. That dignity comes from within, not from what others think. Loretta knew that too. That woman had more grace in her little finger than most people have in their whole body. She did. And she taught Darius the same, which is why it hurt so much to see Savannah try to erase all that. Sister Jenkins patted my hand. She didn't erase nothing, Marcus. You made sure of that. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. The same colors I used to watch with Loretta from this exact spot. You know what I realized? I said, what? This whole situation wasn't really about the house or the money. No, it was about legacy. about making sure that what Loretta and I built, not just this house, but the values, the dignity, the respect, that all of it meant something, that it couldn't just be erased by somebody's assumptions. And you did that. You protected your legacy. Darius's legacy. Loretta's legacy? I tried. You succeeded. We sat there until the streetlights came on, talking about old times. About the neighborhood barbecues. About the Christmas lights contest I won 3 years running. About the time Darius hit a baseball through Mrs. Patterson's window, and I made him work all summer to pay for it. Stories, memories, legacy, that's what this house held. Not just bricks and wood, but the accumulated weight of a life well lived, of love shared, of lessons learned and taught. Savannah wanted to update it, modernize it, erase it. But some things are meant to stay the same. Not because they're stuck in the past, but because they honor it. As Sister Jenkins headed home, I looked at my house one more time. The house I built. The house I fought for. The house I won. Not because I was loud. Not because I was aggressive. But because I was right. And sometimes, that's all that matters. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.